Hey guys, what's going on? It is Broken Nose Vlogs here, and today we are finally going to revisit the Redragon WINDSEEKER laptop cooler that I have been mentioning and talking about revisiting for a little while now, in at least a couple videos. The reason why I want to revisit this thing is because I believe the results that we got originally may be inaccurate, because the laptop that we used had some thermal issues. Mainly the CPU was overheating even while starting up the computer. I was seeing upwards of 90 degrees Celsius. This is after repasting and cleaning the computer out. It just wasn't getting any better, and I bet that's probably one of the reasons why the MSI laptop was giving us such poor results between the Micro Center and the WINDSEEKER laptop coolers. They almost seemed identical, and I kind of made this conclusion that, this, maybe isn't really worth it. So that MSI laptop finally got retired. I ended up getting an HP Victus instead. It's got a Ryzen inside of it, RTX 3050. A little bit more up to date, a little bit newer, and hopefully it will give us a little bit better results between the two of them. So for those of you that may not have seen the first video about that laptop cooler, essentially the Redragon WINDSEEKER is a slightly more, I would say, robust laptop cooler compared to what you normally see. I mean, for me at least, normal laptop coolers are basically those mesh trays, and they have a bunch of case fans that just blow air up into the computer, and hopefully it makes it run cooler. I don't know. But, it's always been like that for me at least. I had one from Micro Center that was fairly inexpensive, and it had 5 or 6 little, case fans that were situated to blow up into the computer. And I thought for the longest time that was adequate, and it was still better than just leaving the computer sitting on a desk or a table and restricting airflow that way. Well, in comes, not the Redragon, but in comes Razer with their version of this laptop cooler, where I really liked it. It looked really neat, but the problem that I had with it was, A, it had to plug into a wall outlet, and B, you had to use the Razer Synapse software if you really wanted to utilize the full potential of that laptop cooler. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Razer Synapse. I feel like it is a fairly clunky software suite, but I almost wanted to buy the Razer laptop cooler, say for those drawbacks and the fact that it was $100+, which is about 5 times as much as what I paid for the little Micro Center laptop cooler that I had been using for some time. So in steps Redragon with their version of this very similarly designed laptop cooler. Now, I have used Redragon equipment before. As a matter of fact, my current keyboard is a Redragon keyboard. I've had their mice. I've had a few things by Redragon, and I believe that they are a fairly okay budget peripheral company. Well, their Redragon laptop cooler, this WINDSEEKER, was like $60 or something like that. So roughly half the price, if not, even maybe less than half the price of the Razer cooler. Now, there are some differences. You do not plug it into the wall. You will plug it into your computer using USB. It's a USB-C plug, and it's a little bit more limited. If you have seen the first video, I went over, kind of the features, but overall, like, compared to the Razer one, you just have a little set of buttons. It has one lighting mode, which is RGB rainbow mode. There's a little light strip that lights up down there. So it's a little bit more basic, but I really didn't care about that stuff if the cooling performance was better than what I currently had. And unfortunately, we weren't really able to tell, because the results felt almost identical to the actual, the Micro Center one that I had. So I was like, okay, maybe just elevating your laptop's all you need to do. You don't even need to spend $60 on one of these. Well, now we're going to try it again. This is kind of a twofold video because I get to do two things here. I ended up benchmarking my HP laptop just to see how it did, and I also decided to try both the Micro Center and the Redragon laptop cooler on it while I did some stress testing, and I even put it on just the countertop itself and ran without a cooler so we could get like a baseline temperatures which are actually a little bit more surprising than I thought they were going to be. This video is not going to be terribly long because I kind of went over this laptop cooler in depth in my previous video, which I will link in the description, but I can kind of go over it really quick. It basically has a 15 centimeter blower fan with a sealing foam gasket around the outside that you can place your laptop on. I knew it could take at minimum about 15-inch laptops, maybe even 14s. My HP Victus is actually slightly larger. It's a 16-inch laptop, so I knew I wouldn't have any trouble putting that on the cooler. I will go ahead and I'll actually showcase the temperatures first, because that's really what this is more about versus my benchmarks for my HP laptop. So let's go ahead. I'm going to throw the images up here in just a moment. We're going to start with no cooling whatsoever, so we get our baseline temps. We will then try the Micro Center cooler, and then we will finish off with the Redragon cooler, and we can kind of take a look at the temperature differences. So as you can see on the results there's actually a fairly big difference between not using a cooler at all and the WINDSEEKER. Between our baseline temps and the WINDSEEKER, there is a 13 degrees Celsius difference on the CPU and a 14 degrees Celsius difference on the GPU, which is pretty noticeable. And even the Micro Center laptop cooler does better than not using a cooler at all, which probably isn't surprising. But the differences between the Micro Center cooler and the Redragon cooler are also fairly noticeable too. So I am going to go back on what I said in my last video and state that I was wrong. And actually, for the price, this is a pretty darn good laptop cooler. I was debating if I was going to main this thing or not, because I still had my Micro Center cooler. And the Micro Center cooler, while it may not have pushed out as much air, it was a little bit quieter. But after seeing the results on the Redragon WINDSEEKER with my HP Victus, I am definitely going to stay with that laptop cooler as my main. It does a really good job. 14 degrees Celsius difference on the GPU, 13 on the CPU. That's pretty good in my opinion. Now, that being said, I still did want to see what a laptop RTX 3050 6GB could do with this Ryzen 5 CPU. So I decided to run some 3D Mark benchmarks. I did do the full suite. Why not? The 3050 supposedly can run ray tracing. I did do a slight overclock to the 3050. I did about 100 megahertz on the core and about 500 megahertz on the RAM, the VRAM. And I feel like for this laptop, they're pretty okay results. There doesn't seem to be a lot of results for my particular CPU-GPU combo on 3D Mark, so a lot of my benchmarks are going to say legendary. But for the ones that do have some benchmarks, they're fairly close to like the best in class. So I'll go ahead and I'll throw those benchmarks up right now. And those are the benchmarks for the HP Victus. Compared to the MSI laptop with its little 1650 that it had in there, this is a fairly nice bump in performance, and hopefully I won't have to do any sort of upgrading or modification to this HP laptop for the time being. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with the results, and I'm definitely really happy with the laptop cooler results. Now that we have a more, definitive sort of, result. So the MSI laptop definitely skewed our results in that first video. So, like I said earlier, I am kind of walking back my opinion about how I said the Redragon laptop cooler was not really necessary. No. For the money, I feel like that Redragon laptop cooler is probably a really good value, and I would definitely recommend it. As long as you're okay with the noise. The noise is probably its biggest drawback. It is much louder than my Micro Center laptop cooler, but I feel like for the performance that I get out of it, it's an okay trade-off. Will I be always, benchmarking and pushing my laptops to their, absolute limit? Absolutely not. But I still want to make sure I get the most longevity I can out of the laptop, because I know laptops by nature are compact little things that tend to get hot fairly quickly. So whatever I can do to mitigate that, I will try my hardest. So I think we can wrap this video up basically closing up saying, yes, this Redragon laptop cooler is worth it, and it will actually cool your laptop better than most of the standard laptop coolers that just have PC case fans pointing up at it, and it is definitely much better than not using a cooler at all. But yeah, that's going to be my video on the Redragon cooler. I do have some other things in the pipeline, like as you can see here, this is that GTX 1050 Ti that I had in that budget computer. It's out of it now because that budget computer now has a GTX 1070 in it, and that came from the DDR computer, which drove me up a wall, because the DDR computer now has a new graphics card in it, and I will definitely do a video on that and what I decided to upgrade to. Thank you guys for watching. I hope if you guys had seen the first video on the Redragon laptop cooler, this kind of clears things up on it. If you haven't seen it, I will link the video in the description. And with all that being said, I think I will end this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, like I said earlier, and hopefully I'll catch you guys in another video. Until then, take it easy. Bye-bye.